Okay, so remember we've looked at a couple Spielberg movies, right? And we saw, and I've been saying that he's pretty much the master of blocking. So here you're going to see him take it to the next level, in my opinion, with Jurassic Park. So here's the scene with the T-Rex. The first time we see the T-Rex. So first thing, we're just gonna watch it with sound, and again, things to pay attention to: the editing, the cameras, the blocking, the actors, every little. Think of, just absorb the whole thing for a moment.
It's the power trying to come back on.
What is that? Where's the goat? He left us.
Now, where does he think he's going?
When you gotta go, you gotta go.
Dr. Grant?
Boy, do I hate being right all the time.
Keep absolutely still. This vision's based on movement.
Okay. Still holds up pretty well today, right? Done in the early 90s, I guess. 92 or 93, maybe not. I can't remember. Early 90s. So anything you notice about it that's interesting? I know I'm being vague, but I'm trying to get you guys to think, not lead you on to what I'm looking for.
The no music, for starters, kind of setting up like a suspenseful atmosphere as they reveal, the prime attraction of the movie.
Right. No music. Interesting, right? But there's sound though? There was sound.
Yeah, the T-Rex is the loudest thing.
Yeah.
Especially like its footsteps that are very apparent in the first like 30 seconds or so.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
What
like
about
the crunching too with the
Say
goat?
again?
The bones crunching when he's eating the goat, that's pretty loud.
Yeah. So here, Spielberg's certainly playing with sound with us, really that heightened moment. And you've all done it, right? If you're all been ever, even if you just played hide and go seek with somebody when you were a kid, everyone's super quiet, and it's almost like you're hearing, your senses get more powerful. You're trying to hear what's going on in the dark. I think that's what he was trying to pull across here. So we have the rain coming down, and then all these little noises that we're trying to find out what's going on. What about the camera movements? Is there movement on these cameras shots?
It's a bit of trucking.
A lot of trucking, actually. There's a lot of micro movements in here. Here, watch, take a look. I'm gonna turn the sound down. Let's just look for a second. Here's the opening shot. Watch what happens. Small move in, right? to emphasize what's going on. Moving the camera in there. See, it's these little truck ins here, truck in, static shot. Another move shot, bringing us into their minds. So a lot of setups, actually, if you think about it. All those are little dolly moves. They're not on a little tiny dolly. These are big film cameras, so they're on a Fisher dolly. Here, sliding forward, wrapping around. Even doing a little zoom action here to kind of create that. Notice it's just a lot of movement, right? Now the moves start getting a little bit faster. Okay, so the camera is actually doing a decent amount of movement. There's a few static shots in here, but not a lot. It's just like this shot static. There's a cutaway back to the cup. All these are little moments, but the majority of any time there's a character showing any type of emotion or getting scared, camera's moving, trucking in, trucking out, wrapping around. So he's putting these little moves in there just to help accent what's going on, to enhance. So when someone's getting scared or realizing something's not right, the camera does that little move in there. It brings us into them in the audience, as the audience. So that's the first thing that's happening. Also, are there a lot of wide shots in here right now?
No, they're all like medium.
Look at them all. Watch the first wide. Let's see when the first wide shot shows up. Not even that. That's not wide. Look at that. As he comes out the door, we zoom through the door. Not wide. Here it comes. Here's the wide shot. See that? Saved it. He saved the wide shot for the moment, the money shot. We see the head to toe, the full size of T-Rex come out. So that was all careful planning, right? I want to keep it claustrophobic. I want to make the audience feel like they're in the car with everybody. So if that's the case, I want the audience to feel like that. Is it going to be objective or subjective? Camera angles.
Oh, it's subjective at first, right? And then
Yeah, at first, absolutely. And then the other thing too, let's look at the reveal of T-Rex. So I find it interesting that he chooses to start small and go big. So how do we first know something's happening? The footsteps, right? Zooming into small glasses right here of water. That's our first hint of trouble. Nothing big, nothing wide. He goes the opposite. Watch the mirror. Shakes, right?
Maybe it's the power trying to come back on.
So he starts, we know we're going to see this big giant monster, this big T-Rex. So instead of cutting to the chase, he's starting small, like little telltale signs. There's another shot with the puddle, right? There's all this vibrations that are knowing that this big beast is coming. So Spielberg chooses to follow that path in the beginning. And that's contributing to the story, right? It's giving us a different perspective on the dinosaur. Instead of expecting this big monstrous thing to pop up, these little vibrations are what starts it all off, to know he's approaching. So now, again, look at how everything's claustrophobic. We're outside shooting in the car through the windows, wrap around the car for this shot, keeping the camera fairly tight. Even here, the goat's gone now. Look how clever this is a reveal. Watch this. So before I even get, I'm sorry, I'll go through this first. So here's the first reveal.
Where's the goat?
All that had to be timed, right? So the tilt up, right? Instead of just having it stand there, we're looking out the window, we tilt up with her, and then she turns and says, "Where's the goat?" And then boom, it drops on the glass there. Also notice the framing on some of these shots. Let me get to the one I want to point out. Right here. Two shot. Look how nice this two shot is. So he's also very conservative with his framing. So instead of having two different angles of showing both these two characters' fear, he's got her in the foreground, which is the best thing. Look at how scared she looks in here, and then having the other guy over the shoulder. I can combine two shots with once right here. So he's really good at doing that. And you go back to Close Encounters that we looked at. Remember, he did that a lot with the camera moving and having different people come in. Still doing it here. So goat leg shows up, boom, that triggers it off. Now suddenly everything gets a little bit faster. She backs up quickly, the camera starts trucking in a little bit faster, more extreme close-ups. Now we see, power's off. Look how they do this reveal. Now they could have just cut to that wide shot of T-Rex walking out, right, the money shot, but instead of doing that, the first thing you really see is its fingers, its little claws testing the power. And now watch this shot. Now it's almost a jump cut, right? We go from close up to a little bit wider through the glass. And now watch, the camera heads up, tilts up with the dinosaur. Notice we see, I'm sorry, I went too fast. Watch this. So we just saw its claw. Now the camera's trucking up with the dinosaur, but the rain is kind of blocking our view. And look at the blood right there, how it just covers him, just to show you the carnage that's about to happen. And then finally, there's our real reveal of the initial shot of him eating the goat. So you could have easily just sat on this shot and cut to it, right? But it's, look at how much more revealing, how much more this brought us in as the audience, because we want it. We're all coming to this movie to see dinosaurs. That's why we came. And so he's basically being a big tease with us, Spielberg, teasing us with these little hints, the vibrations, the claw, the goat leg falling down. And then here's our first reveal. And look how cleverly this is done. Just not showing you enough, just getting you there to the point of, and boom, there it is. That is great blocking. But think about how complicated that shot is. So that there is not a CGI machine. That's a creature. That's a real, dinosaur that they built full scale out there. And so all the hydraulics and everything it took to make that happen. So our first look, right? And he looks over. Now we know we're in trouble. Notice how long he sits on this shot. So here's that mise-en-scene I was talking about, where letting the shot hold long, right? Remember, let the audience see. All this money that was spent on this moment, on this dinosaur, millions of dollars probably to make this scene happen. The rain towers, the lighting, the set, everything to pull this moment off. So we want to sit on it. We want to stay there and really see and absorb what's going on here. And so it wouldn't have pulled it off if the dinosaur looked totally fake, right? So every aspect of this had to be really, really pushed to the limit to get it to happen. And now we get, he's going to get his, of course. And then that brings us, all this had to be timed out. All these moments here when the camera pans right, they look the right moment. Those cables have to pop off.
All the blood is gone on the leg though.
Say what?
The blood that was dripping on the leg is gone now.
Yeah, there's a couple continuity mistakes in here, of course. So that's one of them. But all these effects here, these are all practical effects. So those high powered, fence wires that keep the electricity going through. If the shot sucked, that one shot that sucked where they looked over and they all popped out, what probably would take like 40 minutes to reset that and rebuild it to get it back again, do it. So there's a lot of timing and a lot of, when you do shots like this, it's not just a cut. The camera's moving, the actors are reacting, everything's happening in camera. It pays off for us because it brings us in there into the scene, but it's time consuming. So here is a great example. If you were thinking, mise en scene, his mise en scene is right here. Mise en scene's right here. It's looking at everything that was brought into the screen, brought in front of the audience to bring us in there. And this is another great example of it excellently done. All this stuff makes it look like a real place. The lighting, look at the lighting. Here we go. Here's the scene, the money shot that everybody's been waiting for.
Boy, my head being right all the time.
Keep absolutely still.
So that's, where they put all their time and energy into. And it pays off. This movie, if you still works to this day. And in fact, I would even argue that this one is still better than even the more current Jurassic Park versions, primarily because of the practicality of it. Most of the dinosaurs, there was a hybrid of CGI and mechanical dinosaurs, but that putting those things in there with the actors made it feel more realistic, made them react more. And so some of the newer movies, it's all CGI and it's missing that little aspect.
I think it's psychologically genius because in psychology, they teach about the fight or flight and rarely do they talk about the freeze. So I think it's like extremely genius of him.
Yeah. So this, whether you love or hate the movie, and there's definitely some cornball moments in it, it was brilliant. It was brilliantly executed. And so this is, and you look at Spielberg's track record, man, like I said, he's Mr. Hollywood. He's done so many films in Hollywood, so many different genres. How can one director make something like Jurassic Park, then make Schindler's List? They're totally completely different movies. Yet this guy was able to pull it off. It's amazing. And this is brilliant. And also take a look at the camera movements. What do you notice about the camera positioning? I know I'm looking for an answer and I'll probably just cut to the chase. But when we see these dinosaurs, what perspective are we seeing these dinosaurs from? I think this shot here. Then look at the big reveal right here.
The children. I think even the rear view shot of the dad or whoever the driver was from the child's perspective as well. So you could tell who he was marketing the film to.
Yeah, but also low angle. Notice that there's no high angle shots of these dinosaurs in most of the movie. He purposely kept the camera low to the ground or at normal human height so that we could see the true scale of what these beasts really would be like. So there's no real craning shots. And there are, I'm not going to lie and say there's none at all. There are some, but specifically in this scene, and even like in the first reveal, when they first meet the first set of dinosaurs, the big brontosaurus, it's all kept at human height because we want to show that perspective from us, because this is something you just don't see in our world because it doesn't exist. And so if he'd done a great reveal from up and then craning down and everything, it wouldn't have been the same impact for us. So keeping the camera low. The other thing to notice is look at the aspect ratio. It's not the traditional 2:4:0, that super letterbox format. They purposely chose to make this movie in a 1:8:5, a little bit taller aspect ratio, because they knew they're going to be dealing with these animals these dinosaurs that are huge. And so if I had made this a Super 240, which means it would be way more letterboxed, I wouldn't be able to represent and show these animals the way, as big as they could be. So that was another choice with filming that they made because of the story. Any more thoughts about this?
You brought up the angle at which we view the dinosaurs. Like there's not a lot of high angle, and I don't think there's any POV from the dinosaurs' point of view. Whereas Jaws, you have a ton of POV, and I, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but I feel like it's because storytelling wise in Jurassic Park, it's kind of like the creator of the park is kind of the bad guy, not necessarily the dinosaurs. Whereas you have Jaws, the shark is the bad guy and the people are the good guys. So I feel like if you were to show the point of view of the dinosaur, it would make the dinosaur look even more villainous. Than that. Not that the dinosaur is not intended to be villainous, but I don't think as much as in something like Jaws. I think it's a different kind of monster movie.
I agree with you. That's a good point. I didn't even really think about talking about that, but you're right. The dinosaurs aren't the bad guys. It's the park owner, the grandfather. It's the whole premise of if you read the book, the premise is technology will always fail. Something will go wrong. And we as humans, as a species, we put technology on a pedestal. That's the thing that's going to save us. But it can be also the thing that defeats us. And that's what happens in this movie. These dinosaurs, they're not evil. They're not good. They're not bad. They're indifferent. They're just what they are. It's humanity. It's what, they break out not because of they're strong and bad. They break out because the one character sabotages the whole system because he's stealing the eggs and the embryos to get money. That's the whole point here, that humanity is actually who's bad in this movie. And so I agree with you. There's no reason to do a POV in here. It's all about from our point of view. I might watch this again. I haven't watched it in a really long time.
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, I don't want to rewatch Jurassic Park.
A funny thing about this scene actually is, how the T-Rex is coming out from its paddock, like right there?
Yeah.
Well, later on, when Grant and Lex go over the edge of that, it shows that the floor is actually way, way lower than it shows it to be right here. So it's a little continuity error, which is kind of funny.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. There's going to be, if you go frame by frame, you will find lots of continuity mistakes in this movie because it's such a massive movie. There were so many moving parts to pull this off that it's just a miracle. I'm just amazed that it got done. And there were definitely times like they had no idea why they were shooting this. If the dinosaurs were going to be portrayed as realistic, and that was the whole point. That was what Spielberg sold the film studios on, was Universal, was that we're going to make real dinosaurs. They're going to look like they're alive and real, not like stop motion animation from like the old days. And they weren't sure. He sold that, but he wasn't sure that was going to happen. So that definitely took a lot of faith and a lot of, cojones to pull that off, right, for him, and faith in their ability as filmmakers to make this happen. And I think they did it. I mean, it's going to go down as a brilliant. It is. It's a classic movie. And
it was revolutionary.
Absolutely, it changed everything. Spielberg, again, in that group of filmmakers, put Spielberg, George Lucas, basically changed Hollywood, reinvented it, changed the way things were made. Blockbusters wouldn't have existed if Spielberg didn't do it first. I take it back. They probably would eventually, but he's the guy who started it off with Jaws. But look at all the films he's made. They're just amazing. And even Lucas, who only made a couple of movies and didn't do that great a job as a director, in my opinion, still revolutionized the film industry. And so I'd say, who else is doing? Who's the new one? New people changing stuff. Well, I'd say, what's his name? James Cameron. So he's another guy revolutionizing the industry, and we're about to see that soon with the next set of Avatar movies that come out.
What about M. Night Shyamalan?
I have a love-hate relationship with that guy.
I think
I feel
everybody does.
I feel the same way because The Sixth Sense, not to be that like dramatic film student, but The Sixth Sense like changed my life in terms of storytelling and everything. And then
Brilliant.
now he just sets me up and breaks my heart every time I buy a ticket to his movies.
The problem with him, he's a one trick pony.
Yeah.
It's all the Twilight. It's all he does is make elaborate Twilight Zone movies.
Which I love, but I feel
Yeah,
like
don't get me wrong. I think that some of his stuff can be cool, but it's all, after, The Sixth Sense was like a movie that, that right turn happened, you're like, oh my God, this is brilliant. But then every other movie was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, he did that last time. Oh, yep, here's that twist. When's the twist coming?
I went to this event where he was there, like it was a screening of The Sixth Sense, and he said that the big twist at the end to him is just an add-on. Like to him, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody that's seen the movie, but the scene where Cole and his mom are talking in the car, he's like, to me, that's the end of the movie. And then that twist is like the icing on the cake. And I just think that's crazy because that's what everybody remembers about that movie. But to him, it was just like, oh yeah, that was just another thing that happened. Right. But I was going to say, I mean, when you're talking about modern day, are you talking about from like 90s on, or are you talking about like now, directors emerging now?
I'm kind of looking, I haven't really dressed now. No.
And are you okay? Because sometimes like there are movies made now, and I don't want to sound like one of those people that goes, they don't make good movies anymore. But I feel like now there are so many directors that directorially, when you talk about things like blocking and cinematography and things like that, where you go, this is a really pretty movie to look at, but the entire story doesn't come together. Does that make sense? Like
absolutely.
A lot of directors now that visually, like to me, like Ari Aster, right? Like I think visually his movies are really pretty, but it's not like a Spielberg where it's a pretty movie and then also it's a cohesive project.
No, but I agree with you.
A lot of people, I'm around a lot of like horror people, and they're like, oh, he's just like changing the film industry. And maybe that's true, but that's just how I feel.
I think there's some really amazing films that are coming down the pipeline. One of them is going to be Dune.
Yeah.
What I've heard already about it, it's up there. It's going to be one of those classic movies once it gets through the pipeline. And I'm not saying because I do like sci-fi and stuff, but I'm saying it because of the story is so compelling. It's one of the greatest, science fiction pieces of literature ever made up until this point. And there's been numerous attempts to tell the story and put it on the screen. David Lynch did his version, which kind of flopped. And wasn't that, there's definitely moments in there that were really good, but it didn't capture what it was supposed to be about. Then Sci-Fi did their own version of it. So that movie has the potential to be one of these groundbreaking movies. And that's what the reviews have been coming in about so far. So that's the first thing about why I think that might be one of these breakthrough movies. The second thing, because of the story is solid. It's just a proven piece of literature that needs to be translated properly to the screen. And then second is going to be Dennis, I'm going to screw his name up. I never could say his name right. Villanello, the director. This guy's brilliant. I mean, if you've seen some of his work, it's, he did Arrival. He did the Blade Runner sequel. So he's an incredibly visual filmmaker that just, is captivating. Every movie I've seen he's done, he's taken it to the next level. This whole thing we've talked about today, he encapsulates that in whatever he touches. And so being super passionate about this project, about Dune, a Dune fan, and then him directing it and then putting his hands all over it and crafting it. He's such an amazing filmmaker. It's all lined up to be a successful, amazing thing. This guy, Dennis, is probably going to be, like, to me, like the next Spielberg, the next Lucas that's going to take the industry and revolutionize filmmaking and storytelling. That's just my opinion, but we'll see. So Blade Runner, what else did he do? Arrival is a big one. There's a few of them, but he's definitely moving up there. So there's definitely actors, definitely big key players I think we're in a almost ready for that point of transition to better filmmaking. And I'm not saying there's every film in the last 20 years has been garbage. That's not true. There's been some good ones, but there's been a massive onslaught of lameness, right? Hollywood lameness. Hollywood's just been caught, you know, in the reboot, refranchise, whatever mode, and that's what they've been doing.
Well,
Just-
and then sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I feel like there's a lot of new movies that are rehashes of old movies without saying that they are. But like you watch it and you go, oh, I've seen this exact same thing on an older movie. And maybe it's because some people haven't seen the older movie, or they go, oh, nobody will notice. But I've noticed that a lot, where they go, oh, let's just kind of remake this movie, but let's call it something else.
Mm-hmm. It's all about being safe. That's what it's all about. So,
Okay.
and I'll just talk about this for a minute or two, and then we're out of here. Hollywood, once they got fully corporate, you've been bought out by bigger corporate, you know, entities. It's all turned into a game of bean counting, of money. So if I've got $40 million to spend, I have to spend on making a movie, I'm probably going to find some known entity, some franchise, something that I know I'm going to get my return on, I think. Then take the chance on something completely different and groundbreaking. And so that's the battle that I think most directors and filmmakers face now in Hollywood, because it's hard to get the money on something that's not a big tentpole project. And so Dune, for example, this is going to be an interesting one that kind of fits between the cracks, because it is a big franchise. It is a big, huge potential movie to have multiple. In fact, the way it's been, they shot it and they wrote it, it's 2 movies, and they only made the first half of the book. So they still have to make the second half. Hopefully they'll get to do that. But it's a big enough project, or big enough piece, enough people know about it that's guaranteed to get people to come in. But they also had let Dennis do it, and since he is going to put his touch on it, he's going to be the caretaker of the story. He's going to bring it to the screen in a proper way that needs to be done. So they basically greenlighted him, because of his success on his last couple of films, to spend what he needs to spend, do it the way he needs to do it, to get it to the level that the fans are expecting. And I think he did. That's why I haven't seen it yet. I'm waiting. I'm going to be, it's one of those movies that I'm planning to go in the theater to watch. I'm not going to watch it on HBO Max, because it's going to take away from the sheer beauty and magnitude of it. So I think this is going to be one of those movies that's successful. It's going to be a big success in the box office, but then open up this world to these bigger, more grand movies that are not just about flash, bang, and zoom. They really are focusing a lot on the story and the deep human, you know, elements of this, you know, conflict, of struggling, met class. There's a lot of political and sociological things that happen in this story in the book that I hope that they brought to the screen. And if they did, this is a victory for us as filmmakers, because that means that there's hope down the road. It's not just going to be, Marvel movie after Marvel movie. And I'm not saying those movies suck, because I do enjoy them, but they're safe. They're safe to make, because you know you're going to get the money out of it. You're not taking a chance. Dune, they're taking a chance. Could flop, could fall in there. They may hope it's the next Star Wars series. Maybe it may, and maybe it's not. But they took the risk to doing it, and that's all I can say about it. That's good. You got your marching orders with this assignment. 2 weeks to do it. Shouldn't take you too much time to do it. Just take your time, and have a great weekend, everyone.